Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Prayers to the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge, understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of things that are soon to come on the earth. Most High kind of led me to a couple of things out of a new book. It's called The Lost Outpost of Atlantis. I got this idea from the book from a video from Kurumeo, and it was a great video, and I will definitely leave the link in the description box. And it's kind of crazy because it's kind of linking up to an event that happened today. This morning, let's see here, someone sent me a email talking about Deshaun Jackson, who plays, I think, for the he plays right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I guess he just look it up what he went ahead and posted. We've all known about this post that he barely put up today for years. I'm not gonna throw it on and talk about it right now on the post because you guys already know how YouTube and these people roll. Okay, so just look it up. And what you're going to see is how people do not deal with the subject. They don't deal with the root of the matter. What I saw was on ESPN, there was a huge outcry for what he said, and it was anti-Semitic, and they were so upset, and they were, begging, they wanted him, they forced him to give an apology and all this other stuff. They didn't prove the information wrong. But what they did do was they just threw a huge tantrum, over something that they have pretty much just given the whole world to believe. Now, if you notice, when you start to talk about anything different and the reactions you get from people, when you start talking about how we're the Israelites, when you start talking about how this is our land, when you start talking about how, these lands over here are ours, and this is where they got everything for the three parts of the world, they don't respond like, hey, let's sit here and have a discussion and see, if we can figure out the truth. No, they respond with a lot of emotion, a lot of anger, and they do this in many different avenues of life. They did it also, so they did it today with Deshaun Jackson's post on his Twitter account, I think, or whatever else. And they were talking about possibly, kicking him off the team, and he's supposed to make $11 million this year, and they were going to kick him off. They couldn't believe what he said, and he didn't say it. It was a quote from somewhere else. But we have to understand that we're dealing with demons, spirits. Now you should be able to easily see it, even in today's, with these people that that say things that are totally not true. And if you disagree with them, they go crazy. Those are demons. We all know that. We understand that. What we have to understand is that this goes into all different avenues of our lives. It also goes into this right here. This is the Lost Outpost of Atlantis. Okay. Let me see here. We want to start on page 12. We're going to take a look at this really fast. What you're going to see is that many natives here were going out into the jungles and bringing back all of these different, artifacts. And they were bringing them to this guy named Father Crespi. Okay. Now, when they went to go take these artifacts to people in museums, they would just get really angry and upset, just talking about the things that they were finding here in South America, saying there's no way that they found them here. See, they made up an entirely different um, matrix. They made up a whole different thing where everything came from one place, and it was never anything was ever nothing was ever here. But see, it seems like a lot of these things were hidden down in caves and hidden all these. I mean, you got to imagine how much stuff there must be all over the place here, because you're talking about thousands of years of artifacts hidden all over the place. And see, just because they said that nothing before Columbus existed doesn't make it the case. So when they get hit with things that don't go with, the things that they've made up, they get angry, they get upset. And that's exactly what's been going on. That's what goes on with everything. Religion. They made up their religion. Now it's starting to be wiped away that it's a bunch of lies. And now they're getting angry and upset. They made up history. People are realizing that history is all a bunch of lies. They're getting what? Angry and upset. Realizing that many things are all things, actually, most of the great things that we see here in society originated with our people. They're getting angry and upset. And they want everything to be finished and in a hurry. And they want to go back to normal. Let's take a look at the top part there that is highlighted, where it says Father Crespi's collection also includes many woven copper items, which bear a resemblance to the modern automobile radiator. An engineer I spoke with later confirmed my impression. Whatever the use these machines had been put to, he told me, their design indicated a sophisticated understanding of heat exchange technology. And yet, he continued, they were unlike any radiator ever used in the West. You're going to hear that quite a bit, where the things that were here were not like anything in Europe. Yes, because all this stuff started or originated over here. And then they took it back over there, and they act like they were the ones that built all this stuff. That's what's going on right here. So these natives would go get these things out of the jungle, take it back to Father Crespi, okay, and he would keep it. And he had this storage area that was full of all these different artifacts. Okay. Another part here, another object that suggests an ancient South American technology far removed from prevailing theories is the nose cone, shown on page 7. I'll show you guys that too. Show that later. The decorations, okay, which have been roughly bolted to the piece, are apparently recent additions for the purpose of making a sail. But the cone itself is a different matter. Okay. It is fabricated of a platinum alloy, which Dr. Mason Valentine authenticated more than 10 years ago. How did the supposedly primitive pre-Columbian natives acquire the necessary tools and theory for this meteorological accomplishment? There is no obvious answer. Just as unaccountable were several superb wooden statues carved in the Pacific Oceanic island style and depicting Negroid men and women. So I think that's pretty important here. We're never making it seem like these people weren't here. But of course, here it says, just as unaccountable were several superb wooden statues carved in the Pacific Oceanic island style and depicting Negroid men and women. Next to these lay a mahogany Adam and Eve with definitive Semitic features. So you got Adam and Eve over here. You got Negroid men and women over here. Shows a serpent twines around the death's head on Adam's chest. His lower left ribs were exposed, and he wears a leaf skirt. How did these ancient representations of alien races and foreign mythic motifs come to be found in the deep Ecuadorian jungle? Now, see, when you start bringing this kind of information out to the other nations, they get upset because it goes against the things that they have set in motion, the things that they have, wanted to believe and enforce the whole world to believe. So like I said, same thing. They don't want to deal with the actual information. They don't want to deal with that. Just like Deshaun Jackson, they don't want to deal with what was posted. They just want to get angry and upset. That's, like I said, that's the MO, okay, of what they do. Next. Okay. Let's get back over here to page 6. So there's a lot of information in here as well. All right, here we go. We're going to start with the I saw resplendent gold and silver decorated enclosures, similar to the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant. So that's what the things that they were finding right here. Things that are similar to the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant, with carrying poles and hinged doors. The decorative figures on these ceremonial strongboxes were parades of animals marching up the curved sides toward great sun discs. These processions included clearly defined elephants and hippopotami. So you got elephants and hippopotamuses over here. Again, something else that they said was not here. So how did ancient native craftsmen know of these animals? No accepted account of South American history answers that question. So like I said, they just sit there and made up their own story. And now the Most High is pretty much showing that that was a whole bunch of BS. It says, looking closer, there were unmistakable images of Brontosaurus and extinct llamas. Either a highly advanced culture thrived in this hemisphere in times before recorded history, or else somebody had perpetuated a huge and expensive practical joke. Well, yeah, we know that, the Gentiles have made a huge joke of everything. They've turned everything upside down. Left is right, right is left, up is down, down is up. It says, shoved carelessly in a dark corner were great stone and copper mechanical devices with circular rollers, which bore an uncanny resemblance to modern metal fabricating machines. Mechanical stone corn mills, wheeled and geared, but in design quite unlike any mill ever used by Europeans. So again, way more advanced. Nothing that you've seen before in Europe was existing over here in the Americas, in the Most High's chosen land, which all would make sense. Okay? Yet traditional archaeology insists that the South American natives could not have used the wheel. So they made it sound like they didn't even have the wheel over here. But if you read on up here, it says they talk about the things they have designed right here. Okay? Again, modern metal fabricating machines, mechanical stone corn mills, wheeled and geared, but in design quite like any mill ever used by Europeans. But then the Europeans said they didn't even know what a wheel was. It says this theory is stubbornly held to in spite of wheel toys that have been unearthed in Latin America. In spite of obviously, wheel-turned ancient South American pottery, in spite of the lathe striations seen on some pre-Columbian tobacco pipes. I'm just going to read a little bit more. In spite of meteorologically unique copper gears unearthed by Mormon scientists under impeccable archaeological circumstances in Peru. These gears, when tested by meteorologists, display a hardness comparable to steel, which indicates not only that they were designed for heavy mechanical use, but also that the ancient dwellers of the continent had developed a uniquely sophisticated meteorological capacity. Okay? So like I said, these guys had way more sophistication than the people that came over here from Europe. But all this information has been hidden. All this information has been hidden to make it seem as if, everyone here were the people who were, the unsophisticated types that needed to be pretty much come over here and conquered and shown the light and showed the right way to live. But see, this all goes back to prophecy. Remember, the Most High said that a foolish nation was going to be sent over us to destroy us. So we know that this nation that came over here was going to be a foolish nation. So when they got here, that's when they got the download. That's where they got their rebirth. Okay, I'm going to read something here from the Book of Mormon, real quick. First Nephi 13. We'll start with 34, because now you understand like why they had to go back over there and hide information. Why they have the Vatican and the archives, because it said they were going to hide information. Now it all starts to make sense. Okay, let's listen to this. First Nephi 13:34. And it came to pass that the angel of the Lord spake unto me, saying, Behold, saith the Lamb of God, after I have visited the remnant of the house of Israel, and this remnant, hold on fast. Yes, okay. And this remnant of whom I speak is the seed of thy father. Wherefore, after I have visited them in judgment, and smitten them by the hand of the Gentiles, and after the Gentiles do stumble exceedingly, because of the most plain and precious parts of the gospel of the Lamb, which have been kept back by the abominable church, which is the mother of harlots, saith the Lamb, I will be merciful unto the Gentiles in that day, insomuch that I will bring forth unto them in mine own power much of my gospel, which shall be plain and precious, saith the Most High. Okay? So when it talks about that right there, what is the church was going to do? It says that let's see, abominable church, the Gentiles do stumble because of the most plain and precious parts of the gospel of the Lamb, which have been kept back by the abominable church. Now it says this abominable church is going to be keeping information away, keeping information. Okay, so what information have they been keeping from us? Well, who we are, where they got their technology from, who are the Most High's chosen people, the story that the Most High was going to execute, which was he's going to bring down the Most High's chosen people for a certain amount of time, and then he was going to bring them back. He was going to open up the eyes of the Gentiles, some of the Gentiles, to see the truth for a while, or early or late. Some of it just depends on when the Most High wants to open up their eyes. And then, he's going to restore his people. So now, which organization is hiding all this information? We start to read these accounts now, and you start to see about the elephants, the hippopotami that was here, or you start talking about the technology that was here that was not seen over in Europe. Now you understand why, at first, the Vatican archives consisted of very few books, because they didn't read, they didn't write that much. But then all of a sudden they came over here, and we know that everything that they have is not just hidden in the Vatican. We know they probably have it in different places as well. But all of a sudden then, their libraries and all their secret places began to grow, because they were all working feverishly to hide everything that they found over here. Anything before Columbus, they didn't accept. So now you understand, like, when you start to talk about the truth, you start bringing out the truth, all of a sudden they just lose it, because their spirits, those demons, they know the truth. And now they know that truth is coming out now. And there's nothing they can do about it anymore. So therefore, they know they can't have a rational conversation. So then they resort to, going overboard when they try to talk about if someone brings out something that's not what they have, ordained, they lose their minds. So like I said, when I saw that whole clip on ESPN when we were getting on Deshaun Jackson, they never talked about what he posted. Usually they're quick to put up what they post. But this time they just got upset about what he said, but they never put up what he said. They never tried to put that up, and then disprove it. They didn't do any of that. They just were just acting as if they were just so appalled. And you should be able to question what you've been told. You should be able to question what they have been pushing for these hundreds of years. But they don't want that. Okay? Now, like I said, this is a conversation they don't want to have. So here's a picture right there. You can just pause it, take a look at some of the stuff that they had there. And I'll be bringing some more information out from some more of these books, okay? Especially this one, it has a lot of really good information. But it just kind of, it just connects with what's going on right now. So now it makes more sense as to why, when we started talking about these being our lands, and all these groups started to attack, the personal attacks started to attack, myself, my family, and everything else. You guys, when, I said, now you understand why. Because like I said, the lies are being torn down by the Most High, and they can't actually prove what they're saying. So therefore, you get those kinds of reactions. Okay? All praise is to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.